everybody. Welcome to Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein, and I believe each and every one of us deserves a plan in life, whether it's a financial plan, a retirement plan, an estate plan, a business exit plan. Well, what about a health and wellness plan? Today, I'm being joined by David Specht. For David, leadership has been more than a vocation, but a way of life for him. He's a veteran of the First Gulf War. Thank you so much for your service, David. And he has led numerous organizations of different types and sizes. For the bulk of his career, David has been the president of Specht Newspapers, a media and marketing company in Louisiana. And in 2018, David and his wife, Tina, embarked on a health journey, losing, listen to this, a combined 180 pounds. This journey led to what David calls his impact passion for health coaching. Since then, their business, Specht Health Coaching, has directly impacted hundreds, while indirectly impacting thousands of people who seek a solution to their weight and health loss challenges. Yours truly here. He has launched multiple podcasts, spoken before numerous crowds of business leaders. He's written a leadership blog at davidaspecht.com for more than 10 years. Today, David wants to help others achieve their purpose and realize their dreams. As co-hosts of this one, Two Perspectives, using his name Specht in there, podcast, David and his son Joshua, I have a Joshua, bring generational views to the world of leadership to reach common ground. And hot off the press, his new book, Old Dogs, New Tricks, version 2. I missed version 1, but it's all good stuff in here. David, welcome to Ask the Planman. Let's start with the book. What got you to write a second version of your book?
Well, as somebody who grew up in the computer age, I think all of us have learned that the 1.0 version of everything pretty much sucks. You know, it's like, and when I originally wrote Old Dogs, New Tricks back in I think it was 2015, I wrote it because I had heard a podcast say you could take a collection of blog posts and make a book out of it and be relevant. And that's what I did. I put them all together in about a 50-page book. And I knew that I wasn't writing it for the right reasons. I didn't have the reader in mind. I had me in mind. And so I put it on the back shelf. Other than my mom, I probably sold 5 copies on Amazon. and I put it on a shelf and never to be seen again, right? You just don't. Well, fast forward to 2018 when I started my health journey, I reconnected with an old friend who became my coach. And he was asking me questions like, David, I want to start a podcast. I said, oh, I did that. And he goes, oh, I want to write a book. I said, oh, I did that. He goes, you wrote a book? And I said, yeah. I said, it's terrible, but here it is. And so I sent him a manuscript. And I remember him texting me and he said, David, this isn't terrible. There's a lot of gold nuggets in this thing. It just needs to be put together with an intention to have a better outcome. And so this was right before the pandemic hit. And I said, you know what? Our world's changing like crazy, like fast. And being in the newspaper business, I saw it progressing. People quit buying printed newspapers. They want it online. They want it free. How do you make money? And I'm looking at all this, and then everything starts accelerating during COVID, right? We barely heard of DoorDash pre-COVID. Now everybody has it on their phone, right? Because you don't want to go out to a restaurant. So I said, okay, how do I take people like me who've lived their life to a certain point, and now the whole world's changing around them, or people are changing around them, or what are the things that I need to do proactively to live the second half, if you will, in a greater measure? So that's really how I went back to the drawing board. I wrote the book almost start to finish brand new, with the exception of taking some of the points that the first book had made. I took the first book off of Amazon. Unless you buy a used copy somewhere from it doesn't exist. So I launched this 2 weeks ago. It's been as high. It was the number 1 new release when I launched it in Christian. I think it was Christian Leadership. It got as high as number 9 or number 8 in that category. So And we're through all the friends and relatives, right? Now people are actually buying it based on the merits of the book. Right. And so I'm really excited about that. And it helps us play right into our health coaching business, because I believe that once you get traction in one area of life, you want to take on other areas. For me, it was nutrition first, and then stepping into other areas. Somebody else may be in relationships or in their leadership, and then stepping into health. So we just want to provide that opportunity to awaken somebody to what's possible in their life and in their leadership life.
So kudos, obviously, on the book. And there's a couple points in there that I wanted to speak with you about. One of which you talked about the difference between the coach and the cheerleader. And I found that very poignant in the sense because sometimes people don't necessarily understand the distinction between the two. And so I, like you, went through my weight loss journey about 18 or so months ago. I didn't lose, David lost 120 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, and I lost 60 and continue to work and maintain. And again, we have the parallels where I was reading, you got back into the gym and you the flab had to go, right? So when I was getting down to where I haven't hit my optimal level yet, I'm still working towards it, but what I was doing, I was getting softer and flabbier. And then I'm like, well, I need to start getting back to the gym again and tighten and firm. So I'm willing to accept some trade-off on the weight movement as I'm rebuilding my composition. And I think you were experiencing the same things yourself with that. But what I want to tie in, I want to stick to the coaching and the cheerleading side of it first. And then I want to talk, you're sharing with me about, we'll tie it into the insurance portion because you're sharing with me about what happened with the life insurance. I want to share that story with my listener as well. But let's talk about the differences between coaching and cheerleadings as you define it.
Well, number one, I don't believe they're mutually exclusive. And I do believe that generally people tend to be skilled a little bit greater in one area or the other. The naturally confrontational person is more on the coaching side, where the naturally building up person, if you will, is on the cheerleading side. A mentor of mine by the name of Doug Wood says this: you have to have people in your amen corner and in your truth corner. And so I believe that the cheerleader is the rah-rah person that picks you up and says, I believe in you. You can do this kind of person. And we need that in our life. I need that in my life. The person that celebrates the wins along the way and really gets excited. When I would send in my way into my coach, they would be like, David, this is amazing. And that just really lifted me up, right? To want to continue the journey. The coach, while has maybe some of those qualities, is also the person, I tell people, I make the joke all the time. I used to see a coach as the guy that was on my football field that grabbed me by the face mask and said, I don't deserve to be on his field. Get off. If you're not going to do it right, get off my field or carry your, and drag you around by the face mask. And while some of those skill sets are definitely what coaches, entail, a coach is a person that will call you on your crap. They're the ones that will look you in the eye and say, how bad do you want this? I can't help you until you commit. We know
who says that one.
Yes, right.
We've had Coach Bird on. We've had Coach Bird on.
So that it really is a different. But again, they're not mutually exclusive. We need them both in our life. We need that person. If all we're doing is getting correction, now all of a sudden we feel like a failure because we don't see the win side of it. And if all we're getting is praise, then we don't see the places where we need to change. So I believe that you need both in your life. You need a coach and a cheerleader. You need and if it can be all in one person, great. But if not, you need to find people that will do that both in your life.
Well, there's the complement effect and the theme of the book, Old Dog, New Trick. So let's talk about, trying to train a dog. Is you need the friendly reaffirmation, right? They get a treat, you rub them up and down, you're all excited because they feed off of that. But then you also need the stern correction every now and then to make sure that they're learning that discipline that you need. No different than a human being, right? Mm-hmm. You need the guy that's going to give you that affirmation of you're doing great, keep it up. You were struggling at the gym today. Don't be defeated. It was still a win, right? You got there, right? Showing up at the gym was, that's the victory in and of itself is just getting there, right? But then the coach, as you're saying, is, and this was the line I think you had in there from Coach Bird is, I'm friendly, but I'm not your friend. Right? As your coach, I'll be friendly to you, but I'm not your friend. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to put your feet to the fire, and I'm not necessarily going to be your yes man. And that's how from me and my practice, my financial planning practice, our insurance business, whatever it is we've done, is I tell people very candidly, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. What you want to do with it is up to you. I'm going to educate you. I'm going to show you the answers and the path to take, but I'm not going to just keep going along because you're paying the check. You're writing you're paying for it. So, and I think that's what we need, whether it's a health coach, a business coach, any kind of coach that you're a sports coach, especially, you're trying to break through in the world of sports to an echelon. We talk about the 1% from a finance standpoint, being in the top 1% of earners and net worth. Mm-hmm. But think about what it takes to be a professional athlete. I got to think it's even less than a 1%, right? So if you're getting that kind of coaching and training from somebody professionally as an athlete, they're not going to placate you. They're going to kick you in your behind.
Oh, yeah. And I think, too, to use another metaphor, it's Yoda and Luke Skywalker. Yoda's not, even though he did in the movie, but Yoda's getting Luke to raise the X-wing out of the swamp. And even though he can, it's not his job to do that. He's training and teaching Luke Skywalker how to use the Force. And that's really what a coach is supposed to do. They're not going to do the work for you. They're the guide along the way. They know the path. They know the structure. They know where to go. I tell people all the time, I said, as a coach, I only have to be one day ahead of you on your journey because I've experienced that day and I can tell you what to expect during your experience. But I can't go through your day for you. I can't make the decision whether or not to drink enough water or to not eat the donut that showed up, in the break room today. But I can tell you that the donut will probably show up. So be prepared for it. And I think that's really where coaching, no matter whether it's business coaching, health coaching, life coaching, that's our role, is to come alongside somebody and say, look, I've been down this path and I can guide you down the path, but you have to put one foot in front of the other. And I'm here to help you do that.
It's a measure of accountability. And I think the whole point of our show and the Planman, as I talk on frequently, is proactivity and planning. And so there's so many different avenues around planning. We rattle off a few: college, estate, and tax, and, insurance and investments, and the overall game plan. But, health and wealth is a component. The end results, and I'm trying not to be overly cliche, but you can't hit a target you don't see. Right? Goal setting, proactivity, and the planning that goes with it. If I want to lose 120 pounds, or if I'm trying to get to some weight goal that's going to optimize my health, well, what is that journey? What does that journey look like? What are the steps that I need? And you better believe there's going to be bumps and bruises along the way, and missteps, and that donut in the lunchroom, and you're craving pizza tonight, and you know what? That's okay. Like, as long as you understand the mission is going to have those hiccups. So when I talk about my seminar has been over the years, 25 years, your right to financial dignity. And I talk about the paradigm of getting out to a destination to claim your ultimate financial reward, right? Not to get into all the details of it. But so I've got a journey. I've got to go from New Jersey to California in 5 days, and I've got to drive. Well, I don't know what the weather's like. I don't know what the road conditions are like. I don't know if there's detours along the way, traffic accidents. Like, there's obstacles in our journey. And so our job is to prepare people for anticipation. And that's what you're talking about, is that donut may show up.
Yes.
And so you have to make a decision. And you know what, David? It's okay either way what you decide. If you feel you need to have that donut that day, then move on. And tomorrow you start fresh. I mean, I always talk about golf is like, golf's 18 holes of starting over, because you can have a great hole followed by a really bad hole. Guess what? The third hole, you get to start all over. Maybe you'll have a better shot. So you can't live your life beating yourself up. My opinion, I'm sure you're going to concur here, is your eating journey. Okay. I mean, the health and the wellness, but the eating side of it is the consumption, the tracking, the having the map of what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it, how you're going to eat it, and not to be robotic. But you know what? If the temptation's there that day and you feel you need to give into it that one time, then just make sure it's that one time. It can't be 6 days in a row or 6 months in a row if you want to meet your path. Or 6 donuts, right? I've been to Krispy Kreme.
Yeah. When the lights on, right?
I'm sorry. What'd you say? When the lights on, right?
When the lights on.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Let me speak to that for just a second, because I do believe that you're dead on with what you're saying, and that is the plan portion of it, right? I believe that it takes a structure, which would be an eating plan. I believe it takes a coach, somebody to hold you accountable. I believe it takes support, the cheerleader or accountability group or support group, if you will. But I also believe it takes education. And what I mean by that is understanding why you're trying to do what you're doing and understanding how to live life beyond weight loss. Because at some point you're going to hit a goal. If you stick to a plan, you're going to hit a goal. Now, what do I do with that afterwards? Do I go back to Burger King again and watch it all come back? Or do I teach and train myself or be taught and trained how to live beyond the quote unquote diet? And I think that's really what sets the really successful apart is not only do they have a plan for now in this phase, but now we have a plan for this phase. And what does that look like? Am I gonna go to the gym after I get to my weight loss goal and try to tone things up and be in better physical specimen health? Or am I going to become a coach and try to lead others because I'll tell you, as a coach, that brings accountability unto itself because there's other people looking at you, looking up to you and watching you. So that proactivity, on the front end is very important. You may start it as, hey, I got to lose 50 pounds. I got to lose 20 pounds. I got to lose 100 pounds, whatever that is. But again, the plan then evolves to what's next. That's the best question you can ever ask somebody when they're on any type of journey is, well, what's next? What's the next peak look like for you? I think I wrote today, when you get to the top of a mountain, you don't see vastness out there. You see other peaks. And now you want to climb those other peaks because you successfully climbed this peak. And so doing that from a health standpoint is, okay, I'm healthy now. I'm off meds, or I'm at that BMI number, which you should never look at the beginning. I'm just going to tell you right now. That will just scare you and make you know.
It's a body mass index, everybody. Body mass index.
Yeah. And I didn't look at it till about 3 months into my health journey because I had hit an initial goal and I'm like, well, what's next? And I said, well, let's look at the BMI. But once you've gotten to where it is where you want to be, and again, that's your choice, not my choice. It's your choice. Now you have to ask yourself, what's next? Because if there's not a what's next, you will fall back. And that's in any area of life, right? If you establish a wildly successful business, you scale it, you sell it, and you don't ask what's next, everything that you work for is just going to start sliding backwards. That revenue or wealth, it will slide backwards, and I believe that's probably what you're talking about as well. When you have to have a plan, is always be working towards something. You can run away from something for only so long until you start working towards something.
Well, I'll overlay it to the financial planning journey. When I've counseled hundreds and hundreds of clients over the years about retirement planning, the big line I ask them is, David, what are you retiring to? And that ties to what's next, because we're social creatures. Work became our socialization, right? We go to work every day. There's a socialization process, going out to lunch with Charlie, going to see Tina, whatever we're going to do. And so there's an economic side, and then there's the emotional side. And so part of my role as their financial planner, financial advisor was, well, let's talk about what's next. What do you see retirement being? And then ultimately backing into the price tag that goes along with it. And so it's similar in your process and journey on the weight attempt, right? The weight loss attempt is, well, when you lose 20 pounds, what's next? Are you going to stop? Are you going to feel you're only a third of the way or half of the way or a quarter of the way? Like, if the goal is 80, what's going to happen when you get to 20? You're going to stick with it. You're going to take a week off and celebrate and do harm. And all of a sudden it's back to 10. Like, so what's next? Right. So I think you're talking in that same vein. I'm trying to overlay the whole planning concept of everything we talk about ties in with this as well, because and you used it before about looking at the mountain. You don't just lose 120 pounds in a day. It's a journey. Getting to the top of the mountain is a journey, and it's one step at a time. You can't look at that massive hill that's 17 miles back and forth of switchbacks, right, and 7 miles up in the air and say, how am I ever going to do that? Well, you're going to do it one step at a time. And you'll take breaks and you'll nourish yourself along the way. And maybe you need to nap and sleep. And so you're going to lose 120 pounds. Well, this is the normal pattern. This is the proximate time it could take you. Are you prepared for that journey? What happens if you get to 60? Are you going to quit on me? What can I do to make sure you're not going to quit on me? What can I do? Right? You tell me what you want me to do when you get to that point. Right? There's accountability. So you're throwing things at them.
Yeah. And I would even go to one step and say, there's always got to be, I want to say it's a why, but it's really a reason for doing the days that you don't feel like it. We have a method that we use within our own health system that when you're presented with an opportunity to quit or an opportunity to quit, make a bad choice, we call it stop, challenge, and choose. You just stop in the moment. Don't react. Stop in the moment, challenge the decision, and then make the choice. And it doesn't matter really what choice you make in that moment. You're owning the choice at that point. You're not blaming, Bob who brought the donuts. You're like, I stopped. I said, is this donut worth whatever decision I'm making? And then I am taking control of my own life and making that choice. And I believe that as you go through any process of growth and transformation, there's going to be these opportunities to make a choice. In your realm, it's that opportunity of, okay, we're in this wealth building cycle, and I'm seeing the news, and now what do I stay the course or do I pivot? And do I trust my planner? How much do I trust him, or am I going to take the reins? A lot of us, especially my age, maybe us Gen Xers, are control freaks, right? We want to have our hands on everything and do everything and know every single detail of everything. And the idea of automating or delegating is almost foreign to us because we're just so used to being in control. And so the idea of even making that stop, challenge, and choose. Hey, wait a minute. Let me challenge this decision. Let me get Bruce on the phone, or let me get so-and-so, and let's talk about this thing. Because at the end of the day, life is a bunch of choices in the moment that affect the long term. And we don't want a momentary decision opportunity, we'll say, or panic or whatever, to affect a long-term goal. If you want the donut, fine, eat the donut, but don't let it derail you from the long-term goal. Because I think that's what a lot of people do is they'll come in a moment where they have a weakness in that moment, and they'll make a decision that is bad, and then they'll just give up. They'll throw their hands up and say, well, I'm quitting it all.
Well, your point is spot on, and I want to tie in. The majority of our challenges is between our ears.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just head trash and self-talk. And so, Zig Ziglar, stinking thinking, right? Mm-hmm. It was an old line of Zig Ziglar. You can't have stinking thinking. And so when the people who, let's say, are weakened to having that donut, then allow themselves to beat themselves up for the next week. I'm a failure. Like their self-talk just goes right down the toilet. And so the donut today became the bag of M&Ms tomorrow, and then the ice cream sandwich the day after, and then they're eating a whole pizza, and they're wallowing in their misery again because it's between the ears. Yes. And so you got to be kind to yourselves depending on what age you are and where your motivation comes from and all of that self-learning, it is part of life's journey and challenge is that a lot of people are just not kind to themselves and they're unforgiving. Go ahead.
Yeah. And as a coach, and I'm sure you've dealt with this as well, is you have to remind them why they started. And what I've got a client, for instance, that was disappointed this week because the scale didn't move. And they've been on program for about a month. And one thing that I did is I said, send me a picture. Right now, send me a full body shot picture of yourself. Because we get those at the very beginning. That's part of our process. And so I made a side by side of them and sent it back to them so they could see the difference. And I said, that's why you're on this. Look at the progress you've made. Don't let today's disappointment derail you from where you're ultimately headed. I have a picture for my own personal accountability. I have a picture of my grandson on my phone. You know why? Because when the donut shows up, he was my why during my health journey. He wasn't even alive. He didn't even exist. He's 3. I did my health journey almost 5 years ago. Right. But I knew I wanted to be an active grandfather. I knew I wanted to be the grandfather that was on the floor playing with him or shooting basketball with him. And in those moments, I'm still a recovering food addict. I mean, you don't spend almost 50 years of your life eating the wrong things, and all of a sudden, whoa, well, I've reached this enlightenment of great nutrition and health. No, it's going to be an ongoing contention in my life, and I recognize that. And when those moments come that I feel particularly weak, if my coach isn't available, or because I'm always a client of my coach, but I will look at that picture and say, Ryland's granddad would not be eating this. Ryland's granddad would not be doing this. And so I just feel, go ahead.
No, I call it stop, drop, and roll, right? The days when we were in school and the fire broke out, they say stop, drop, and roll if you're on fire. So yours is along those veins, is stop, evaluate, make a decision, and then just accept that decision for what it is. And then move on, close the door behind you. Don't let it follow you where now you're stopping at Krispy Kreme for a hot dozen. So, because you had the one. So you can enjoy it in the moment, forgive yourself if you need forgiving, and then just get back on program and do, what you want. I'll just elaborate a little bit on mine, because I think we were on the same I know Doug and everybody over there. So, in my journey, we had a cruise with my fraternity brothers, and I had certain goals to get to before the cruise. And then I was going to enjoy myself without any head trash. And I'll get back when we're off the cruise. And so I ate what I wanted. I drank what I wanted. I had desserts what I wanted. I enjoyed the fellowship of being with my fraternity brothers and the spouses. And I wasn't worried about measurements and portions and bars and shakes. I'm just going to enjoy. Mm-hmm. And then Monday morning, I got back on my program. And within 4 days, I took off everything I put on the cruise and I was right back on track. The old me would have been eating like I just ate off the cruise for 2 more weeks, because I didn't have the blueprint to go back to. Yes. Because I knew what worked for me. I had spent the year or so being recalibrated into this is how sugar impacts my body and carbs and salts. And, I knew if I had something Italian meal-wise with the red sauce, the amount of sodium that's going to be in there, I'm going to pay the price tomorrow. And so when I got on the scale, well, sure enough, that 2 pounds was there that I fully anticipated. Okay, well, today I'm going to have a clean day. I'm going to go back to my fish and vegetable, whatever it is. And boom, it's right back off. So it's the journey. It doesn't end. It's not like my wife's done Weight Watchers several times. And as she says, she's gained and lost the same 50 pounds 3 times. She's super regimented. She's into it. Her head is there. And that is the key. It's the emotion. She's into it. She hits a goal level and she stops. She doesn't go for the maintenance. She stops going to the meetings. All of a sudden, it's 2 drinks instead of 1 drink. It's two cheat meals instead of it just perpetuates itself. And all of a sudden, tick, 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 tick. And then her head trash and her emotional state, she's beating herself up, and 10 pounds becomes 20 and 20 becomes 30. And all of a sudden, she's back in all her, I hate to say it, fat clothes. She's back. And then she's miserable because she failed again. She gave it all back. And now we've got her going back into, she's getting her head hopefully right this time. But yeah, I've ping ponged numerous times. So for me, it was a big one. And again, we were talking about Coach Burt, Prey Drive. His new book, Flip the Switch, talks about Prey Drive. And so for me, when he started introducing the concept, so this would have been July, what the hell year is this? July of 21, when he was talking about it. And I was speaking at an event, and it was on my birthday, and somebody took a picture of me. And, we're in the midst of COVID, and I probably put on about 20 or 30 more pounds during COVID. And I'm like, I saw that picture, and I'm like, I am a fat sausage. That's all I could think of, is I was just a fat sausage. And I went home that day, and Natalie, Coach's wife, had spoken to me about the program, and I picked up the phone that day. I got home and I'm like, sign me up. I was embarrassed. I saw how I looked, and I'm trying to be more of a public persona. It was before the podcast was launched, before I was just starting to get into some speaking things in the insurance world. And I'm like, I will not put myself back out there looking like that again. Mm-hmm. I used to, embarrassment's a huge motivator, right, of Prey Drive. Yeah. And so for me, so what was yours? What was your aha? Because you lost, I think in the book you say you weighed 320, you lost 120 pounds. So yes. What was your aha? Like, what light bulb went off for you to say, today's the day?
Well, it was actually a little convoluted. And I'll tell you why. My wife's father had his, I think, 2nd or 3rd heart surgery. And she came home from being with them then and said, "Babe, we got to do something. We're out of kilter." And my wife had tried everything known to mankind, and we all gained the same 25, 30 pounds, 50 pounds, depending. I was the Atkins king in the early 2000s.
Sure, yeah.
I would drop,
lots of bacon.
40,
lots of bacon.
Drop 40 pounds, start eating potatoes again, and the next thing you know, it's all back.
And 10 more. And yes, 10 more.
You never go back to where you were. You never go back. It
always went above it because whatever the body was doing, it took even more. So I had the same experience. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So she's like, our friends Tom and Jamie out in California had lost a considerable amount of weight. And she's like, I want to do what they're doing. And I'm like, no, you're not doing what they're doing. Let's try our own thing. So we tried our own thing a little bit. I think I lost 5-10 pounds, but it wasn't working. And she goes, I really want to do this thing. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I said, I'll join you for 30 days just to make sure you're going to stick to something finally. Me, big man.
So you're calling her out.
I'm calling her out
to make sure she's going to do it. I got a wife like that.
Which was really masking my own insecurity about sticking to anything. So right. I get that now. But we got on the program, and week 1, we each lost over 10 pounds. I lost 16. She lost 15. And I was like,
wow. I'm on something.
Yeah. And so over the course of the next 3 weeks, and understand, up until that point in my life, I thought corn was a vegetable. And it was the only quote unquote vegetable I would eat. So here I am trying to eat these fuelings that you're probably aware of, plus incorporating something that I despise, vegetables, into an overall diet. Well, about week 3 in, with consistent weight loss, everything didn't taste as bad. I was able to start really tolerating. Let's use the term tolerate. I would eat broccoli. I would start eating asparagus. Those things, a green bean here and there. And as I was getting the garbage out of my system, mm-hmm. and I got away from the need for the taste of sugar and the need for the taste of sodium and the need for the taste of food baptized in oil, boiling oil, I started enjoying vegetables. So over that 30-day period, a cycle had been broken in me. And now all of a sudden I'm down. I think I was down 20 something pounds that first 30 days. And I asked myself, okay, what's next? Well, the what's next was, let's continue and see how far we can go. Let's see if I can get to 250. So that was my what's next. I hit 250 right before Labor Day. We started in April, hit it right before Labor Day. So that's what, 75 pounds by then. My wife was still on her journey. 250 felt pretty good, but I mean, you're still, hanging over the belt loops there a little bit. And that's when I looked at the thing you should never look at, and that is the BMI. So I'm 6'5". I'm not a short statured man, but yet the BMI for my height was 210 pounds. And they're like, yeah. But I said, why not? So that became my what's next. And so I stayed on program, and that really was enough to keep me going. Some people may need more of a goal, more of a milestone, but that was really enough to keep me going, to go after the BMI, but stay on program with my wife so that we could complete and move into transition together. And I hit the 210 mark in November, right before Thanksgiving. And then I entered into transition, and I lost another 10 pounds in transition. So now I've cycled back up. I hang out somewhere between 215 and 220. And if I get a little too close to 220, I'll put the clamps on and come back down. If I start building muscle, which at 54 might be a little bit more difficult than at 44 or 34. But if I start building muscle, I'll understand that I might go over the 220 mark that I've set for myself. But that's really how the journey's supposed to work, right? You go in with one mindset, but then you go to the what's next as you hit your milestones. And somewhere between holding my wife accountable and thinking about what kind of grandfather I wanted to be is where that aha took place. And that was enough to keep me going forward. And the traction. Let's face it. If you're knocking that scale down every week you go, you say, I can make it another 7 days. It's the weeks when you don't see the scale move that you really got to dig deep and find your why.
So I weighed myself, and still do, every day. And I can't tell you how excited I was getting, or I had gotten, watching the weight melt off of me. And like you, I lost 20 pounds in the first month. I lost 10 pounds in the first week. And I'm like, this stuff's really working. Like I tried Weight Watchers with my wife. I've done Nutrisystem back in the 80s, the Atkins, and I exercise. I've been known to be a gym rat over the years, in and out of gyms and working out regularly, but it's not exercise. My friends are trying to exercise it off, and yes, they're losing some weight, or they're losing inches, and they're converting the muscle, the fat to muscle, which is to be expected. But I'd never gotten results like this, and it was addicting to want to keep with it. I was feeling great, sleeping better. I'm not a snorer. I was about 280, 275, 280, and I'm catching myself snoring. I'm not sleeping right. My doctor, my blood pressure was going up. He's wanted to start putting me on BP medication. I'm like, no way, I'm not doing that. And so all of this turned, I'll be 60, so I got a couple years on you, but I take 0 medications. I take a Bear baby aspirin for, I don't know, the last 8 or so years, probably in my 50s, as just to declog, I guess, the system, as they say, as a preventative, and vitamins and supplements. But I take 0 medication. And I'm proud of that fact. I don't want to be pre-diabetic. Any clients that I have that are diabetic that weigh less than you and I?
I know. And that's the thing, I don't want to go too deep into the med side of it because, it's one of those, every physiology is different issues. But I was like you. I had a pill bottle with every day of the week on it. I had everything from inflammation to metformin to cholesterol. The only thing I take that's prescription these days is a small blood pressure medicine, and that's because I have hypertension in my family history. It's not even. It's more of a preventative, like you said. Yeah. And I think about those things in context of my age, because at my age, now I'm starting to look at legacy. I'm starting to look at what am I leaving behind. I'm starting to look at I can't you can't outrun your fork and you can't outwork your future, right? There's got to be plans in place for you to do that. And I can remember at 325, people, life insurance guy laughing at me, when I started talking about death benefits, because I said, look, I want my house paid off. I want to be able to get insurance to take care of my family, because I was commuting a lot. And I'm like, You know what, one 18-wheeler and it's over. So fast forward to 2022, and I'm sitting here and I've got a 4-year history of being at this weight, and I have a 4-year history of being at this level of health, and I have a 4-year history of being off of all these meds. Now all of a sudden I go and talk life insurance, and it's a completely different story. It's like, David, you qualify for a great rate. David, we can get you something that's going to take care of your family. Oh, we can get you extended term insurance because you don't have all the issues that generally men your age have. And even my life insurance consultant was blown away by what the underwriters came back with. Now, I can't promise that for everybody, but I can promise that if you improve your health, you will improve your financial situation, because things are going to cost you less. If you're not paying for a bunch of meds, guess what? That's not out of your pocket. If you have lower rates on insurance, that's less money out of your pocket. So these are some of the what you would call the unintended positive consequences of taking control of your health.
Well, we said we want to make sure we give everybody the so what, and I wanted to tie that in, because your so what out of this was tying back to the plan man is insurance, favorability, better terms, actually getting coverage, not being a decline or a rating. If you come in rated, they might have taken you at 6'5", 320, but you would have been a table H, and it would have been 5 times the price that you're paying today. And you would have said, you know what, I don't know if I can afford that, because you just can't justify that kind of premium. So, there is a lesson here for everybody that, health and wellness, why do we keep having different shows on wellness or health topics, is because it is and does impact your insurance calculations and prices. I can, again, it's not to share a million stories and back and forth to bore people, but, I get calls week in and week out. I just got out of the hospital. I just had an angioplasty. What can you get me for life insurance? Nothing, bro. Nothing. Like, insurance is before, not after the crisis. You can't crash your car and then call Geico and say, hey, can you up my coverage? No, dude, you just crashed your car. Like, we don't want to give you more coverage. I had that $1,000 deductible. Can you make it 100? No, too late. Like, you had to pay for that in advance. And so your health insurance, we do a ton of health insurance. Smoking versus non-smoking influences prices. Diabetes influence prices. Well, diabetes and health and weight, go hand in hand. And so the so what for everybody is, if you're struggling with these areas of getting affordable coverages or getting coverages at all, you got to go back to the basics. And that's, what can I do to control my weight? Control my weight can help control my health, which ultimately can impact my wealth, or at least my family. Look, life insurance isn't for David. It's for David's family, right? And so David had a need. He wanted to protect and either create a legacy or take care of vulnerabilities. Why does he have his life insurance? And to that point, for the last 4 or so years, he was unable to achieve that, at least affordably, or was scared off of it because of where his BMI was, knowing this is, and you don't want to decline, folks, by the way. Let me put that, so what in there is, you don't want to have a decline. So what David said to you was he had 4 good years of health records. And the doctor reports come out. If you lost 100 pounds last year, you're not going to get credit for losing 100 pounds, because statistically they know that the majority of the people are going to put half of that back almost immediately. So what David did here, we got some more so what's, is what David did was established his credibility of keeping that weight off for 4 years with documentation and doctor visits. So now when they go back to the drawing board and they said, hey, in 2015, this schlub was 320 pounds, and now he's 205 pounds. Oh, well, he was 205 3 years ago. He was 207, 2 years ago. He's 210 and he's 208. okay, he's been keeping it off. Like he's showing us that he's changed. Oh, by the way, no prescriptions have been prescribed in the last 4 years. You're not, oh, you barely take this one pill. Okay, great. So they trust you. They trust what they're seeing. But, you go get a gastric bypass surgery, when you're 400 pounds, like that's not going to help you get life insurance, for quite some time. So that's the so what's.
Yeah. And I would add too that if you're on a diet, you're not going to get to those so what's. You've got to be what I call it on a journey. You've got to be learning how to live your life and build your habits beyond the weight loss. I tell people all the time, if you're coming to me for a diet, why don't you go to Walmart and buy you a box of Nutrisystem or buy the Slim Fast shakes or whatever. But if you want to have lifelong health, if you want to transform your life, what I'm going to show you is going to be simple. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be simple. And we're going to teach you how to live beyond. And that's really what you're getting to is the so what came after the weight loss and the proof to the underwriters that this is a permanent thing with David. He's a good risk because he has developed these habits. And that's really what our goal is. And, whether it's the book or our health coaching company or any of it is to help somebody develop that skill set and habit set so that they can live the best moving forward, draw that line and say, I'm going to be the best from this point forward.
Yeah, 100%. You may have seen, because we've crossed paths on Facebook, when I started my journey, I took that fat guy picture and I declared my declaration on Facebook. And I started a weekly accountability post on my Facebook page. And anybody that wanted to follow, it's not that I wanted them as the cheerleaders, and that was nice. Certainly, the byproduct of getting that cheerleader. It was a way to be accountable because I declared it. I put it out there. I had Natalie, but this was for me. It was my mindset. And so when I put myself out there, now people expected to see what happened, right? Well, yeah. And so, hey, I lost 5 pounds. Hey, I lost 10 pounds. Look at every week I took a new picture and then I would put the side by sides. This was day 1. This is 30 days out, 60 days. Look how fat I was 6 months ago. Look where I am today, right? I have one picture I have saved. We were in San Antonio at a conference. I was probably 3 months in, and I said, I had barbecue in San Antonio and I still lost 1 pound, something like that. Because you could still have that success and enjoy a little something along the way. Because again, it's back to the donut, whether you give yourself the cheat meal, every now, Fridays, I want to have a glass of wine, whatever, you're making decisions along the way. And I'm not giving people excuses to cheat on their programs, but again, we're talking about appeasing and forgiving along the way. And like you said, making that decision, it's like, okay, if it costs me a week on my journey, is it worth having that glass of wine or that dessert? Or it's a trade-off. You could still lose the weight. You just may not lose it as rapidly, or you may, experience a slight spike. In the meantime, are you going to be okay with that as long as it doesn't derail you? So I had another point and I totally forgot what it was, but go ahead. Welcome to almost being 60, folks.
Yeah.
Ask the Planman. He may not remember, but you can ask him. Go ahead.
I'll add this too, and that is, it's okay if you don't start right, because it's all a learning process. I've had clients that just they can't, quote unquote, can't stand the taste of the food. They can't, do this, whatever. And I say, lay that aside and go over to here. Lay that aside and go over to here. Stick to it with what you can and then come back to it. And I think that's what we need to do in every avenue of life is like, look, don't be afraid to venture out into something. And then if it's not the best feeling thing in the world, or you didn't think it was going to be like this, quote unquote, that's okay. At least you ventured out. Somebody said, I said to my coach that helped me get this book out, I said, what if I put it out there and it's terrible? What if what I think is relevant is not as relevant as I thought it was? He said, David, here's the thing. You've actually completed the task of writing and publishing a book. Do you know how many people never even get in front of the computer and start writing the book that they say they're going to write?
Me.
Yeah, and he's not.
You can help me with mine.
He says, I'm not discounting the end result. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying is to celebrate the fact that you got something across the finish line.
100%.
And so as people in life, whether again, health, business, whatever, set out to get something across the finish line and then celebrate along the way, because I believe that's important. And as a coach, you know, my job is to help you get across your finish line in the most efficient way possible. But at the end of the day, if you want to go around the lake instead of going straight across the bridge, that's your choice. I'm going to tell you that going across the bridge is the quickest way to get to your destination. But hey, if you like the view around the lake, you go right ahead and go around it.
We all have our paths. No, 100%. So listen, my guest today has been David Specht. David, how can people get a hold of you? We're going to put your information in the show notes, but why don't you give a quick shout out to some of your sites, your blogs, your podcasts again, and a rundown of how we can reach you.
Absolutely. So davidaspecht.com is the home of everything that's me. Spechthealth.com.
Hold on. SPECHT, folks. SPECHT when he says Specht. Go ahead.
Yeah. davidaspecht.com. Spechthealth.com is our health coaching page. If you'll do either one of those with /ODNT, that's where my book can be found. And we have a special offer for anybody who's bought the book. You'll get a code to do a free 12-week video course called Step Into Purpose that I did with two other partners of mine that I believe will help somebody. That's part of the what's next. I know my purpose. Now what do I do with it? So it's a great course to go through, and that's absolutely free. It costs $300 to everybody else, but if you buy the book and send me a copy of proof of purchase, you're going to get that for absolutely free, and it'll be fantastic. Again, spechthealth.com, davidaspecht.com. Our podcast is Two Perspectives. I also just launched a new podcast called Keep This in Mind, talking about everything between the ears, because that's where the story is. And really, follow me on all the socials as David A. Specht. That I try to keep it as simple as possible. I would do David Specht, but there's another guy out there with my name who apparently is called the Farm Whisperer or something. Anyway, David A. Specht is where it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank my guest, David, today for being with us. I hope you learned some nuggets here about accountability, planning, forgiveness. We talked about coaching and cheerleading and how that both of them can impact you. Numerous nuggets here today that David shared with us. Pick up his book, Old Dog, Make New Tricks. Everybody can learn something from that book. It's a decent read, I'll say, in the sense of timing. It's not War and Peace. It's not a year commitment to read it. I did enjoy it, and David's going to autograph it for me when I see him next up in Tennessee. So thank you, everybody. This has been another episode of Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. Thank you for joining us. Please do us a favor, like, share, subscribe, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever your listening pleasure device is. Please like and share with David and I today. We could use your support. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to have, questions you want to pose to the Plan Man, hit me up at 844-PLAN-MAN. Come hit me at planman.tv, Bruce at asktheplanman.com. I'm everywhere and anywhere under the Plan Man. Come ask the Plan Man. Until next time, David, again, thank you so much. Continued success on your journey. And I'll see you at the in Wonderland as we both work our way down to under 200, as they say. Thanks for being with me, David.
When you need some advice, never sacrifice, always get it right. Ask the Plan Man. Finance, insurance, and more.